Hey y'all, welcome back. So today we're going to continue, sorry I gotta move my chair here. We're going to continue with the Makeup 101 series and we're going to be doing Foundation 101. Now I actually filmed this video the week of Thanksgiving and I just wasn't happy with it. I skimmed over way too much and I felt like it was not a 101 style video. It was more like, I'm going to talk about foundation for a few minutes and then I'm going to show you how I do my foundation. And I just felt like that's not what I want to be putting out there, at least for my 101 videos. So I decided to refilm the video and then actually all kinds of stuff happened. Excuse me. So yes, it's been a while since I've made a video and I'm sorry about that, but I've just had all kinds of things going on lately. So here I am, and we're going to be doing this video today. And like I said, I skimmed over too many things, and honestly, I forgot a lot of the things that I wanted to talk about. So what I did is I made myself a little cheat sheet here, and wrote down all of like the points that I wanted to make and the things that I wanted to talk about. That way I didn't forget. And in fact, if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. And in fact, if you ever see me do that in any of my videos, even my DIY tutorials, that's because that's what I'm doing, is checking in the book. I do all of my own original recipes and everything, but I forget proportions quite often. So I use this to help, you know, remember what to do. Also, you will notice that there is no backdrop today. I have been previously using the backdrop for my makeup tutorials, and I was watching a very, very huge, big, popular YouTuber a couple weeks ago, and she was talking about how she really loved old school YouTube, and she wished more people would get back to that, where they're not using backdrops, and they're not using big productions, and all this editing and sound effects and things like that. And so I noticed in the comments that there were a ton of people, and these were viewers. These are regular viewers, not other YouTubers. Hold on just a second. The phone rang. So, anyway, a lot of these people were saying that they really liked not seeing the backdrop too. They liked how genuine it was. So I decided that I would do a little experiment here and I would film this video without the backdrop and see what everyone thinks. So y'all comment and let me know what you think. Now, for those of you, hold on just a second. Hey, ladies, go do that in the bedroom. I have an extra little girl here today and they're excited. So anyway, now I know that most of my viewers right now are my friends and family and then some other very small YouTubers. And so for those of you that don't really know this, the backdrop does actually serve a purpose. It is very helpful for people like me that do not have a designated filming space where they can pick and choose very few things to be in their background, whereas here I have, you know, part of my kitchen. And also because when you're using your camera or your phone rather, to film your videos like I am, it helps with the lighting. It helps make the light bounce back and look a little bit better. Although what I'm seeing here actually looks pretty good. Also, on another note, I'm trying really, really hard to look into the lens. I know everybody says stuff to me about it. I'm using a phone, so the lens is down here, and I keep wanting to look straight ahead. And part of that is because I do the makeup videos, and I need to be able to see myself. And then when I look at the lens, I don't see myself. So I'm trying. But anyway, we're going to get started. What we're going to do is we are going to go through how to choose a shade, how to choose your undertone, your coverage, your finish, and then I'm going to give you, and we're going to talk about primer, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of a demo on how I do mine right now. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that if you are using a foundation that you love and it's working for you and it might go against one of the things that I say in this video, that's fine. This is more to help people that are having to change foundations like I just had to do recently, or really are not happy with what they have and would like to find something better. So first off, foundation actually comes in a myriad of different formulations nowadays, and we are not limited to the types that we can use like it used to be. You know, used to be if you had oily skin, you wore powder mineral foundation. If you had normal skin, you wore liquid, and if you had dry, you wore cream. Nowadays, the formulations are so diverse, you can wear practically whatever you want. Although I still would not recommend, if you do have dry skin, that you wear powder foundation, because that is just going to be a big old cakey mess, and I don't recommend doing that. So, foundations come in lots of different formulations now. We have stick, we have liquid in the traditional liquid sense, like you literally have to pour it out of the bottle. Then we have gel and cream, like the gel that comes in the pump top and the creams that are usually in the tube or a little pot. We have cushion foundation, which is very popular right now, and that is essentially a very, very thin liquid foundation that is in like a little sponge pushy thingy. I know, I'm so technical, y'all. We also have cream to powder foundations, which are typically very, very full coverage, and we also have powder foundations. Now, like I said, you are not limited to any type or anything like that. Really more important than anything when choosing a foundation is actually the type of coverage you prefer. And we will get to that in just a second. But secondly, something that is a little important as well is finding your shade and your tone. Now, most of us probably know our ideal shade already somewhat. And you're basically going to do a happy medium between the back of your wrist, your neck, and your cheeks. Now, if you have any form of discoloration whatsoever, like I am very fair and so I have a bit of redness and I have freckles, or if you have acne scarring or a lot of uneven skin tone, you do not want to match to your cheek. That is going to defeat the whole purpose of your foundation. Your foundation is to even out your skin tone and bring a lot of balance. It's not going to do that because you're basically just going to enhance the discoloration. So if you have any type of discoloration, go with your neck. And regardless of what shade you use or if you have discoloration or not, foundation should always get at least pulled down to the neck. A little more important than shade, though, would be the undertone in the foundation. You can tweak shade a little bit and find ways to make it work. Undertones, however, are a little bit harder to do. Now, I'm sure most of y'all already know what undertone you are and have been told how to find it, but very quickly, you are going to check the back of your wrist, the inside of your lip, the underside of your tongue, and you are going to, one or all, and you are going to look at the colors. If you are seeing greens, browns, reds, or warm reds, yellows, shades like that, then that means that you are warm toned. If you are seeing purples, pinks, blues, you are cool toned. If you are seeing a combination of both, like me, which you can kind of see, I've got some green and then I have a little bit of purpley blue here, that means that you are neutral toned. Now, used to, if you wanted a foundation to specify which tone it was in the drugstore, you were pretty much going to have to get L'Oreal True Match, excuse me, which is a great foundation. Nowadays, though, tons of foundations are specifying which tone they actually are. Even my foundation we're going to be using today is the Wet n Wild Photo Focus. It specifies right here that it is neutral toned. And so I'm not putting it on you right now, go. And so if the foundation does not specify what it is and you know what tone you are, the easiest way to do it is to hold the bottle up to the light. If you pick up a whole bunch of pink, it's cool toned. If you pick up a whole bunch of yellow and brown, it's warm toned. If you're getting kind of both or can't discern between the two, then that means that it is neutral toned. If you are in doubt as to what tone you are or are not thoroughly convinced that warm or cool is going to match your skin, go ahead and go with a neutral toned. Now, the most important thing about picking a foundation is, of course, the coverage. Now, coverage and finishes kind of go hand in hand, basically because the less pigment that is in it, it is going to make it more shimmery, pretty much. And I'll explain that a little bit in a second. But you can tweak your finish a little bit easier than you can tweak your coverage, because let's face it, you can build coverage all day long, but if you're trying to get a light coverage go full coverage, it just won't happen. There's not enough pigment there. The easiest way to understand how coverage and pigments work is basically to think about lip balm and lip gloss to liquid lipstick. The balm has a ton of moisturizers in it, but it doesn't provide a whole lot of color and a whole lot of coverage. Whereas the liquid lipstick is basically pure pigment and has no type of emollients, glycerins, silicones, oils. It has nothing like that in it. It's pure pigment. So the same goes for very sheer finish, sheer coverage foundation versus very full matte or very full flat matte full coverage. So we're going to kind of go over the foundations and their coverages or the coverages and finishes rather. Girls, calm down. Okay, so basically on the lightest end is sheer foundation. Now, sheer foundation is also called sheer finish when we're talking about coverage and finish. This is pretty much one step up from a tinted moisturizer in that it is going to kind of give you a little bit of evening, but pretty much it's just going to kind of smooth and clean things up. It is almost going to be downright shimmery. So this is very nice for very young women that have absolutely perfect skin but want just a little bit something extra. This is not good for people who have oily skin because while it might look nice when you first apply it, give it about an hour and it's going to look like an oil spill. It's also not good for people who have a lot of imperfections because of course the shimmer does advance and it is going to draw attention. By the way, all of these things that I'm talking about, these are generalizations. There are times that you will find more sheer coverage things with a more matte finish. It does happen. It's just we're being very general today. Next up would be what we would consider light coverage foundation. Now this is kind of what you would consider your skin only better. Light finishes typically have, or light coverage foundations typically have what we would call dewy finishes. So pretty much if you've just washed your face and you've applied your moisturizer and it hasn't even begun to sink into your skin yet and you're getting that little bit of a glow, almost slightly glossy, that is what kind of finish you're going to get from this. The coverage is going to start covering up imperfections, but you're still going to get a lot showing through. So even some light freckles will show through, some light discoloration is going to show through. This is very good for somebody who is not quite sure where they're wanting to go. Sometimes that can be built up to light medium and will look quite nice and still cover a decent amount. Next up in finishes would be satin finish, and right up above that is demi matte, and they're usually grouped together, and I'll kind of explain that in a second. And that is what we would consider medium to medium high. Traditionally, and of course there's a lot of room for leeway here, medium coverage foundation is considered satin finish and medium high is considered demi matte. Now this is the most common foundation on the market. Chances are if you're not thoroughly sure what kind of foundation you're using, it is probably a satin or a demi matte and is a medium to medium high. These are going to start covering completely light freckles and possibly start to cover dark freckles, as well as acne scarring. They're going to give basically what your skin will look like as if you were to apply your foundation or your moisturizer and let it sink in. That's going to give you a satin, that's going to mimic a satin finish. If you're wondering what the demi matte's going to look like, it would pretty much be if you were to loosely dust your face with powder after your moisturizer has sunk in. This is the most desirable finish in my opinion because people with dry skin like me that want a more matte finish can totally wear this. It's not going to highlight imperfections because you are getting a little bit of a glow. You're not luminous anymore, you're just a little bit glowy at this point. And it just looks good. It's also good for people that do have oily skin but still do want a little bit of a sheen going on. This is a good way to get it. And medium foundation is probably the easiest to build. So on days that you want to look a little more casual, you can straight up go with medium. You want medium high, put another layer over it. You want full, you might be able to get that with a good powder on top of that. And then of course, we have total flat matte and total full coverage. Now this is when we're verging into even covering up all your freckles. It's literally going to look like a mask, but in a good way. And it's going to be completely blanked out. So no flat, no dimension, no light advancement. Shh, hush. No dimension, no light advancement whatsoever. I'm sorry, but I have filmed this so many times and had to start and stop that these girls, y'all are just going to have to listen to them. So basically, if you're starting out and are wondering what's the best thing to do, you want to go with a satin medium finish. Like I said, that is the most readily available foundation, so chances are that's what you're going to pick up if you start searching. Now, we're going to talk about primer because I'm not going to do a video on foundation and not do primer. Primer is how you can tweak your finishes. Now, I just said that, you know, you can kind of change the finish more than you can change the coverage. So let's say that you really like matte. You have a foundation that is very full coverage and is very matte, but you would actually like a little bit of a glow. Well, then you can just use a luminizing primer. Same thing. If you feel like your foundation glow is just too glowy for you, you can use a mattifying primer and then a powder on top, and you can correct the finish. Now, in order to get the most bang for your buck from your primer, this is going to sound really weird, you need to match your bases. And now what I mean by this is primers are either water or silicone based, and foundations are either water or silicone based. You're going to be hard pressed to find oil based nowadays. It's silicone now. And basically the reason why is because water and oil don't mix. So they're not going to lay properly on top of one another. They might move around and shift. Foundation is in and of itself incredibly finicky because it has something that goes underneath it, and then it has tons of things that are piled on top. And if your base, they're not like gluing, I guess is a good way to say it, you're not going to get the full benefit. Now, if you are wearing primer more for the smoothing benefits versus the long wear, you can probably get away with mixing your bases. Like I said, this is not a hard and fast rule. Let me know if you are actually able to do a water base and a silicone base. I mean, it does happen. And the way to tell if it is a silicone base, hey, quit jumping, please, is to read your label. Now, we should all be in the habit of reading labels anyway. You're going to look on the label of your foundation and read here. Now, ingredients are listed in order of concentration. So the more that's in there will be the highest amount of something that's in the product will be the first thing. So within the first 5 to 7 ingredients, more like 3 to 5, if you see anything that ends in cone or ane, that means that it's a silicone and you have a silicone based product. The most common one that is put in cosmetics is something called dimethicone. If you're not seeing anything like that in there, then you have a water-based product. Now, chances are it's silicone-based, but it does vary. So, like I said, match your bases, water and oil, don't mix. Now, as for primers themselves, I have 3, well, really, yeah, 3. I have 3 that I use the most frequently. And so whenever I'm wanting a little bit of a glow, like I said, I do wear a bit more matte. If I want more of a glow, I use Infallible Glow Lock by L'Oreal. And if I want to look a little more matte, I use the Rimmel Stay Matte. I also use this as eye primer as well. But my favorite Holy Grail primer is not a primer at all. It is actually the Monistat Chafing Relief Powder Gel. This stuff was all the rage about 3 years ago, which was when I first started using it. And it is almost an exact dupe for Smashbox Photo Finish Primer, the original one. The only difference here, well, there's a couple differences. One of the main differences is that this has more silicone in it and it has cornstarch because it is a powder gel. So this is really great for people that love the Smashbox primer, but they don't want the primer to be like super slick. Because this is a powder gel, you get that similar feel, but not so like not so oily, I guess would be a good way to describe it. Also, this stuff is only about $7 a tube, and it does not tout that it has 50 million different antioxidants in it, and then package it in a clear bottle so all of those antioxidants can oxidize. So that's something to keep in mind. This is great. Now, this primer to me is too glowy without mixing with this, and the Stay Matte is just way too drying on me without mixing in some of the Monistat. So now I'm going to show you how I apply my foundation, and it is almost gone, y'all. Like I said, I use the Wet n Wild Photo Focus foundation. And I bought this foundation after my skin got completely dry. I had oily skin for years. That's a whole nother story, actually, how it turned dry. And pretty much what happened is I had found, I I was using L'Oreal Infallible Total Cover, and I loved it, but it was starting to cake up on me really bad. So I switched to another foundation that I loved. It was a gel. Well, then that foundation was discontinued when I went back to get more. Go figure. Then after that, I saw that this foundation was all over YouTube, and I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to give this a try and see what I think about it, because everybody keeps talking about it. And it took me forever to figure out how to get this foundation to work on my skin. And then finally, I was watching a Tati video, because what was happening to me is I was streaking like crazy, which liquid foundation streak anyway. That's one reason why I was never a big fan. But I was watching a Tati video, and it was the one that she did with Mia Maples. And I was having such an issue with this stuff caking on me, and no matter what I did, I just couldn't get it to stop caking. And she's talking to Mia, and Mia says, oh, well, you know, my skin is so dry and my foundation is just always caking up on me like crazy. And she says, oh, well, you just take a drop of your face oil and you put it in your foundation, and then you just apply it, and it will help prevent the caking. So I quickly whipped up a bottle of face oil. If you would like to see a recipe for this, go ahead and let me know in the comment section. And I tried it, and wouldn't you know, it worked wonders. So what I have done here is I have taken some foundation, and I have put this on a candle lid. This is not a palette, and I'm not using the back of my hand, and that way it doesn't soak up product. And I have put 1 drop of face oil in this, and I'm going to pat my excess onto my face. Now, you don't have to put the oil in, of course, if your foundation doesn't cake on you or anything like that. But I find that this is super, super helpful. And I'm going to start applying this with my brush. Now, I have a very specific way that I do this to prevent it from caking up on me. So, and streaking really bad. So, I find that if I dip this, even though I already have product here, oh, and I'm using the Luxie Precision Foundation, or 660 Precision Foundation brush. And I'm also using my Hot Mess Damp Real Technique sponge. And so I'm going to dip it in just the tiniest little bit of product here. And I'm going to pat my product on first. I'm not going to go right in and brush it on, because I feel like that smears it really bad, and that leads to the caking. Now, because I have added a little bit of oil to this, like I was saying earlier, this has caused it to lose a bit of coverage. But I have figured out a way to kind of build that back up, and I will show you how to do that in a second. And I just blend it like so. And now you can see that it's still kind of sitting on my skin a bit, and I'm getting a little bit of streaking like right in here. I'm going to let this dry down a little bit, and I'm going to go over to this side of my face now. Now, normally I would not have all of this eye makeup on, and I would be able to get a lot closer to my eye, but, you know. And I also would not have my hair down. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side, and I'm just going to blend it in. And once I get it blended, I'm going to go back on this side, because it has dried down a little bit, and I'm going to take my sponge, and I'm going to press this into my skin. And that pretty much gets rid of the streaking. Now I'm going to let this side dry down, and I'm going to go to the forehead. Now, if you have any areas that are very, very dry, and when I mean dry, I mean like this patch right here on my forehead is so dry it's rough. You do not apply product directly to that area of the face. You want to apply the product around and then pull it over the face. And I'm just going to kind of buff this all in like so. And then I'm going to let this dry down some, and I'm going to go to this side of the face real quick, and I'm going to press this in and check my nose. And then, because this gets so cakey, I take my sponge and I just pull up like this. And now I'm going to go over to this side of the face, and I'm going to pull some product down onto my neck. I wasn't able to get that much out though, so I'm not going to get super full coverage today. But you get the idea. And I have lipstick on. I wouldn't normally have lipstick. Ooh, can you say cakiness on the nose, Leah? Also, this foundation has a tendency, I don't remember if it's all liquid foundations or if it's really characteristic of this one. This will cake up your brushes and your sponge like nobody's business. I'm going to be real with y'all. I do not wash my brushes every single time I use them, because it's just a lot of trouble. Thought I heard my baby. But this stuff, I sometimes have to wipe my brush off in the middle of an application because it cakes up so bad. And I know that obviously the more pigment a product has in it, the more it is going to cake up. So that's, you know, that is the nature of the beast, of course. Okay, so now I'm going to go over my whole face and I'm just going to pat this in and help with the streaking and help the areas that need a little bit of smoothing because they are so dry, like in the corner of my nose right here, you know, places that cling. Now, as you can see, I have a teeny bit left on here, and I'm going to dip my sponge into this, and I'm going to press this in the areas that I feel I need more coverage. And see how much I built that up? Like, do you see the difference in the sides? So that's a good way. If you've added oil and you've lost a little bit of your coverage, this is a great way to go ahead and like bump that back up. Now, normally at this point, I would finish my face makeup. I'm not going to do that today. If you would like to see how I finish my makeup, I will link my Contouring 101 video, and that is where I do my concealer, my contour, my bronzing, my highlighting, my blushing, my face powder, all that good stuff. I'm staying home today. The weather is horrendous, so I'm not going to do that at this point. But basically, that is, you know, that is how I got this foundation to work for me. Originally, this was not going to be my next 101 video. I was actually going to do something else. But this foundation, I'm in love, but it took me a hot minute to figure out how to get it to work on my skin. And then a friend of mine at Chris Beauty, I'll link her in the description box, she did a video where she did a full face of Wet n Wild, and she had talked about the foundation, and she said it was a little finicky for her, which, like I said, foundation in and of itself is finicky. And then at least one person commented on the video and said they really wanted to like the foundation, they couldn't get it to work. And so I thought that's going to be my next video. I want to talk to people about it, because the thing is I'm not saying you're wrong, but if there's a product that comes out that it's like all the rage, but you try it and for some reason it doesn't work for you, try it a bunch of different ways. Get your money out of it. If at the end of the day you've tried a million different ways and it still doesn't work, then it just doesn't work, and that's fine. But foundation especially, try different methods to apply it. Try putting different things over it, different things under it, you know, give it a shot. So far we're at 27 and 33 seconds, but I'm going to edit some of this out, like where the phone rang and stuff like that. So I hope this didn't run too long for y'all. Of course, I said this was going to be a lengthy video. If you liked this style of video and would like to see more like this, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you would like to see a specific type of video, have a request, anything like that, go ahead and let me know in the comments section. Let me know what foundations y'all like and what primers you like, and if you found like some foundation hacks to make the products work better for your skin or anything like that. The oil is an amazing thing to help with dry skin, especially if you're hoping for a bit more fuller coverage like what I like. If you have not hit that subscribe button already, go ahead and do that. I'm getting closer to my goal of 50 by Christmas. Honestly, I probably won't make it by Christmas because I did take 2 weeks off where I normally try to do 2 videos a week. So if not, that's okay, but I'm still working on it. As always, thank y'all so much for taking the time to watch, and I really hope that I didn't forget anything and that this was easy to follow, and I will see y'all on the next one. Bye.